The silence is quiet, and it feels like it's getting hard to breathe. And I know you feel like dying, but I promise we would take the world to its feet. Move mountains, bring it to its feet.
Good afternoon. You are tuned into Ability Matters, a program that covers matters to do with abilities, disabilities and everything in between. Ability Matters is one of the longest running disability-related programs in the whole wide world. Starting as Headway On Air in 2007, you can now listen to podcasts of previous Ability Matters programs on YouTube and Spotify. Just search for Ability Matters. Ability Matters is brought to you by My Home Living Care, an NDIS registered disability support organisation.
And you're listening to Ability Matters with young Peter, filling in for Tony S., who will be back next week, pretty definite. And, of course, I've got Bec with me and Marg.
Yes, we do have a full house today. So thank you to Tim for his past 2 hours of In the Past Darkly. Through the Past Darkly. Sorry about that, Tim. Great program, great songs. Love it every week before I have to go on. And I'd love to say good morning to Marg that we have from Tulip Therapy. How are you going this morning, Marg?
I'm really well. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. Just to kick us off, I actually done this yesterday afternoon. We have Mary from Arthritis New South Wales, and she's just going to be telling us a little bit about arthritis and also their seminar that's coming up on Thursday. A little bit of information on if people want to attend that. So we'll hear that first up and then we'll get into the interview after maybe some music from you, Pete.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Mary. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Rebecca?
Good, thank you. We've got Mary that's with the Arthritis New South Wales Association on the phone with us today. I just wanted to jump into a few things and ask you a little bit about what is arthritis and the event that you have coming up.
Yeah, of course. So arthritis, I guess it's a disease that affects millions of people worldwide. We know that in the Shell Harbour area, there's about 1 in 9 people who live with the disease. And essentially, I guess it's a very painful disease of the joints that's often accompanied by other symptoms like swelling, stiffness, troubles with functionality. So there's a lot of different forms, and the two that come to mind when we talk about arthritis include osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. What a lot of people don't realise, there's actually over 100 different types of arthritis.
Wow, that's a lot.
Yeah, definitely a lot of different types that affect people in different ways. Essentially can all be managed very effectively.
Oh, wow. So I suppose rheumatoid arthritis and the osteoarthritis are the most common ones that people hear of all the time.
Yeah, exactly. So osteoarthritis is what we know to be more age-related and is said to come from the natural wear and tear of our joints, but the more research that comes out is telling us there's more reasons for why we develop something like osteoarthritis, whereas rheumatoid arthritis is a little bit more different. It's an autoimmune condition, and there are plenty of other inflammatory types of arthritis that fall under that umbrella.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering, who does it affect? Because I know some young people that still have that as well as some older people. So is there any kind of where people have a pre-existing genetic condition or anything like that?
Absolutely. So I'm glad you pointed that out there, because often we associate arthritis with older adults, but we're learning it can impact anyone from children, teenagers, young adults, all the way to seniors. And so it affects a wide range of people. We do see that women being higher at risk for certain types of arthritis, and then we have lifestyle factors that come into it. So there's lots of different reasons people can develop arthritis. What I want to highlight is that it's not just an older person's disease. It really spans across all the age groups.
Yes. One of our local guys here, Jack Bird, he's a football player, and I know he's had arthritis from a very young age. So that's probably just one of the most prominent examples of someone that's young that has that condition that I know of.
Yeah, absolutely. Those autoimmune types of arthritis that we mentioned before can develop as early as 20 years old, sometimes earlier.
Yeah, I think he was in his mid to late teens when he got that, so maybe even started even earlier. I'm not quite sure.
Wow.
What are some of the simplest ways that you can manage arthritis?
So I guess, first of all, you can learn about the condition. That's usually a great starting point. So the more understanding about the type of arthritis you have will usually better inform the solutions we have that will benefit you. So the different solutions we have are often engaging in regular physical activity. So a lot of misconceptions about the disease is that activity and movement will harm the joints, when actually it's the other way around. Regular activity, we know, helps maintain proper joint function and helps preserve our joints. Then we have other things like weight management, working smarter, not harder. So this could be about pacing, breaking up activity into small, manageable bites. And then, of course, understanding the appropriate uses of medication. So there's lots of different medication to manage the disease or manage symptoms. And this is a good conversation to have with your GP or your primary healthcare provider.
Oh, okay. So I see there's a lot of different ways that you can look at trying to get the best fit for you.
Yeah, of course. There's a lot of different things we can do for the better managing our condition, and I guess that's what our event intends to cover.
Okay, so what will this event cover? I know it's a kind of seminar that you have coming up. Is it on the 24th?
Yes, so this Thursday on the 24th, we have our Rural Health Seminar, which is more focused on empowering the community with tools and resources they need to take control of their health and their arthritis. So we do cover everything from education on the disease to healthy living and joint protection. So we've got a few local health professionals coming to speak at our event. Ultimately, the goal is to bring real practical, actionable health information to people who need this information to manage their conditions.
Oh, wow, that sounds great. There sounds like there'll be a lot of important things that people need to find out that will be featured in your event. Could you tell us a bit more about where is that and what time is it on?
Yes, of course. So our event is at the Warilla Bowls and Recreation Centre. To register for the event, it's a good idea to get onto our website at arthritisnewsouthwales.org.au, and under Find a Service, you can see our rural health event where you can register your name and your details. Alternatively, people can call our info line where they'll be able to connect with one of our team members who can help register. Yes. So we have our info line number, which is 1-800-011-041.
If anyone listening that might be interested in this, could you please grab a pen and I'll get you to repeat that number if you could, Mary?
Of course. It's 1-800-011-041.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Thank you for taking some time out to have a chat with me today. I really do appreciate it, and I'm sure all those people out there that want to learn more about arthritis do appreciate that as well.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Rebecca. Look
No
forward
worries.
to coming up on Thursday.
I saw the heart.
And the last one was the Four Seasons with Walk Like a Man and the Platters with Harbour Lights. All right, back to you, Bec.
Thank you very much, Pete. Great selection you had there. I liked that last one. That was a
Thank
great
you.
song. So, Marg, how is everything going since last time we caught up?
It's been really busy.
Yeah, you've been really busy.
Yeah.
For those that don't know from before, we actually had Marg in at the end of last year. So she'll probably give us a little bit of a rehash, but we'll get into that as we go. So first up, tell us a bit about your role. What do you do at Tulip Therapy?
Yeah, sure. So Tulip is occupational therapy. It's my private little business that I run, and I do majority of NDIS work. So I work with mostly adults and a few children. A lot of the role that occupational therapists have is the NDIS will ask us to write a functional capacity assessment report.
Okay.
And they use that report to sort of base how much funding they're going to give you, a participant, or they use it for how to divvy up the amount of money that they've already said that's going to be in your plan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So we go into people's homes, we assess what their level is at, and we write our big long report that can go from anything from 15 pages to 30
extensive.
pages. It goes into a lot of detail. But it's really valuable information for us. It's valuable information for the participant. So it kind of gives you a really clear picture of what you can do really well, what you might need a little bit of help with, and then what you're really struggling with and need someone maybe to do it for you. So, and that will mean that sometimes we look at giving you some equipment in the home, changing your environment, maybe putting some grab rails around the shower or coming in and out of your home, putting ramps up, changing your kitchen or bathroom. Yeah. And then we'll also look at, how many hours of support that you might need. So a support worker comes in and helps a lot of our participants. And often it's the occupational therapist that will work out how many hours would be suitable.
Okay, so just out of curiosity, do you have an office or do you work in people's
No, I'm pretty
homes?
mobile. I work a lot from home when I'm writing up my reports, and I'm just out on the road visiting all my clients.
Excellent. So if you would like that personal touch and people to come and see you in your home, Tulip Therapy is the way to go.
Yeah.
How did you get into the field?
Well, I think I discovered it only in year 11 at school. I always wanted to do medicine, but found out about it through a friend, and they were talking about how much you get to work with children. And I really love that idea. So
Lots of fun.
yeah, I decided to go into it, I think in year 12. Loved doing the degree. Went out, and I think mostly from when I finished my degree to about 5 years ago, I was working with children. On and off, I've worked with adults in the past.
Yeah.
But yeah, mostly children until really when I had my own child, it was becoming a bit more challenging to have all the energy for children in the office and then come home and bring that same energy to my
you'd
child.
have to do it double time,
Yeah. So to save my energy for Liam, my son, I decided to keep my business more working with adults. It's a little bit more straightforward working with adults. They're able to tell you mostly what's going on, what they might need. And when you work with a child, it's lovely. Like you get to work with the whole family around that child.
Okay, that's good.
But it means taking on a lot. So, yeah.
A little bit of extra duties there.
Yeah. And a lot of energy playing with the child as well.
Oh, definitely,
Yeah,
yes.
when we're doing therapy, yeah.
Well, I'll get you to play a couple more songs if you like, Pete.
All right, Bec. What about the Rascals and People Gotta Be Free? Gene Pitney, the man who shot Liberty Valance, the Rascals with People Gotta Be Free. And it's back to Bec and Marg.
Thank you very much, Peter. Some great tunes there as well. So I'll get back into the questions with you, Marg, and I was just wondering, what does Tulip Therapy offer? Like, is there certain things that you specialise in, or you just open slather?
Yeah, sure. That's a good question. So like I was talking about, we do the functional capacity assessments. That's probably a lot of what I do. I also work with some therapy assistants and support workers, and I will often do the functional capacity report and then sort of identify in that process that they need some ongoing therapy or a program written, and I'll write that program, and then one of the people that work with me will go out and do that program and follow the program that I write.
Sounds like a good plan and setup that you got there.
Yeah, it's good. So it means that that's a lot more cost effective for the client as well if it's a therapy assistant, because as we know, it's quite expensive and it goes through your plan quite quickly when you've got only a limited amount of hours for therapy. So having a therapy assistant is really good for that. You can stick to a program, see someone quite regularly, but you're not spending as much money as you would if you're seeing an occupational therapist every week.
So would that be like an exercise physiologist?
No, so an exercise physiologist, they write programs, a lot of exercise programs, but they also deliver and monitor them as well. Any allied health assistant, though, depending on their background, can follow an exercise physiologist, an occupational therapy, speech pathology, physiotherapy program that we write.
So you guys are the big bosses, and they just get to
they
follow
do the hard
plan.
work. They go in and they work with the client more regularly. So, for example, I've got some clients that are doing some upper limb therapy, a program that I've written. Some are being just taken out into the community because they're really feeling anxious in big shopping centres with the bright lights and noisy environments. They feel a bit overwhelmed. So having someone there helps them adapt to that and makes them feel more comfortable. The more they do it, the less help they're going to...
out of my mouth. I was going to say that, comfortable.
So and the less likely they are to keep needing our help, which is the goal ultimately, so that you don't need us anymore.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And now I think we're going to get to this wonderful part. Marg has done a sensory profile on me, and I'm interested to hear what the outcome is of that. I was a bit bad and done the answering myself.
No, you were great. You were really helpful. So I'll just very briefly talk about what sensory processing is.
Tell us all about
sensory profile. So we talk about sensations and sensory profile. Most people are able to identify the 5 senses. So can you rattle them off if I ask you? So
sight, smell, sound, taste,
touch.
Oh, touch. There we go. Yeah, maybe I don't have a lot of that.
So and we can all identify that. So that's what we're talking about when we're talking about our senses. It's probably a lot more complicated than that, and there's a lot more that our body can detect that we could probably call sensations. Occupational therapists talk about 2 or maybe 3 extra. In particular, we talk about the vestibular sensation, which is the sensation of gravity and how our body moves in relation to gravity.
That's not my friend, gravity.
And there's also proprioception, which is the feeling, the sensation that we have through our muscles and joints, telling us where our body is in space. And those 2 are really important when we start talking about how we can help us in the sensations in our body help regulate us and keep us calm.
I think I know what you mean. Yesterday I wore some really high boots, and it made me realise how tall I was and how far I had to fall.
Yes, yeah. The centre of gravity is really important, isn't it?
It's the little things, Pete.
Yeah.
So I just realised, wow, I'm actually quite tall, and that's a fair way down to the concrete if I need
and
to
also,
fall down.
The boots have put you in a new position, and so your body's now got to adjust to how far your steps are going to be, how many steps you're going to take to get somewhere.
I noticed that.
The weight of the boots are going to be different.
And my stride wasn't as long.
So that's all knowing where our body is in space, and also just knowing how to move in relation to gravity. So anyway, with that in mind, given this...
I got off the topic.
No, that's okay. So you've answered the sensory profile, which is something that Winnie Dunn put together a very long time ago with with the idea that occupational therapists are going to use it to help us understand either our own sensory profile. So I'll go into a little bit more detail about that, but also just, it might be for a child, so an adult can understand their own child about what's going on. We probably need to take a break in a minute, but I'll just explain one thing. So...
Oh, you're all right.
I guess the important thing to keep in mind is that people talk about sensory processing a lot these days. A lot of people on the autism spectrum have sensory processing challenges, but you can have sensory processing challenges and not be on the autism spectrum. So just something to keep in mind.
Well, stay tuned if you would like to hear some more about my sensory profile. And we'll get into some music, Pete, thanks.
All right, thanks, Bec. It's very interesting, actually. All right, the Foundations and Build Me Up Buttercup. And the last ones were Jorgen Ingman and his guitar and Apache, and the Foundations and Build Me Up Buttercup. Back to you, Bec.
Pete, these are good.
Yeah, I agree.
And so now we're going to get back to the sensory profile and find out just how boring I really am.
Yes, so unfortunately you are what we say similar to most. So you filled this out for me and very kindly even did your own scoring correctly, I might say. I had to double check, but you were right. So very helpful there, very diligent.
Does that say something as well?
Probably, but not about sensory profile. There are 4 quadrants that we talk about, and I'll go through those and what they mean and where you scored and what that means maybe for other people.
Yeah.
So the 4 quadrants are low registration, which means that sometimes if you have low registration, it means you don't register the things in your environment as much as others. So it might be that you don't notice if someone calls your name you won't notice until they're right up in front of you. That might be, and you might see that in a child in a classroom, completely looking like they're ignoring the teacher, but they just haven't registered. So that's low registration. Same as like some people that bump into things a lot, they don't register furniture in their environment, things like that. And you scored similar to most people. So your registration is pretty average compared with most people. You do register things in your environment, but you don't overly register things. So you're not always noticing if the blinds are open or closed. You're not noticing if, there's a thing out of place in your visual environment. You're not noticing if there's
I don't have that. No.
A new sound in your neighbourhood, things like that. So you're pretty much like the most of us are. Sensation seeking, again, you scored a little bit lower in this. So you don't seek out sensations much at all. So sensation seeking...
it's overrated.
Sensation seeking, a lot of our very busy, wild kids, the ones that are always on the move, look to be, jiggling in their seat. Adults, they're always maybe seeking really high-risk activities. They're the ones that we'd say are sensation seeking, like they need lots of input to sort of feel like the rest of us, whereas you don't need much and you feel pretty regulated. So you're not needing a lot of input. That was the one thing that was a little bit different to the rest of the population.
Yes, I think after the journey I've had, a lot of things like, oh yeah, again.
Yeah, you don't seek out anything extra.
I'm not too excited about a lot of stuff. I'm just like, oh yeah, that's good enough, yeah.
Yeah. Although one thing I did notice is that you put quite a lot of spice on your food, and you do, and that's sort of sensation seeking, but you don't do it across every sensation.
Maybe only certain things.
Yeah.
I like, I will say quickly, I like the feeling that chili gives on your lips after you've had that burning.
Oh, yeah, that's good,
The more chili, the better. I'm like, ooh, I like that stingy feeling.
Do you like chili or do you like wasabi? Is it a certain kind of heat that you like?
No, wasabi's too much because it lingers too long in the throat.
Oh, okay.
But just the sensation of something tingling on my lips, I like that.
Yep. Oh.
See, weird.
No, not at all weird. We've all got our own unique sensory profile, and even if you don't come outside the norms, it's still a really interesting activity to do because you sort of reflect on things that you do like and don't like, and that's really helpful to know. Yeah. And hopefully you felt like that as you're filling it out.
Yeah,
like you were probably noticing some things about yourself. Yeah.
A couple of things I'd go, I'm on that one or I'm on that one, or I don't really know, we'll just go that one.
Yeah. And one thing that we do notice is I really like to do it when I'm working with children is I like to give it to the parent as well as the child, especially if there seems to be a little bit of a mismatch. So if you're really quiet, you're avoiding sensory input as a parent, and then you've got a big sensation seeker child, it's a lot to handle, and especially if you don't know what's going on and what's within typical range and how to support someone that is a massive sensation seeker when you're not. So it's really helpful for, I guess, that relationship between the parent and child. I found it really helpful. So the next one is sensory sensitivity. And they're what we might call hypersensitive kids. So when I said before the sensation seeking is a lot of input just registers as a little bit, this is the opposite. This is like a little bit of input can feel like a lot and feel really overwhelming to some adults and children. So an example might be that they just feel, when the curtains open, the lights are way too bright and they can't adjust to it. They feel really overwhelmed.
I had that at the start of the stroke.
Oh, did you?
But it didn't last. It lasted only for about a week. I couldn't handle the lights.
Yeah.
I'm too bright. And I'm like, close the curtains.
Yeah.
Close the curtains.
Yeah, and that reminds me, I should say that just because we experience some of these things doesn't mean that we necessarily have sensory processing disorder. It just means we're just noticing what your sensory profile is. Like I said, we're all a little bit different. You can stay within the normal range and you can even be outside it and still, not necessarily have a disorder. It's really, we always register something about how much it impacts our function. That's the important thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's sensory sensitivity. The last one is sensation avoiding, is when we do things to avoid having any kind of sensation. So we might eat familiar foods all the time, which is something that you ticked, I noticed.
I do.
Yeah. So we're kind of keeping things in order. We don't like anything to be too unpredictable. That's sort of called the sensation avoider. Yeah. And we want to control our environment.
Yes, I definitely would agree. I am one of those. I'm surprised I'm not in the extreme because I'm pretty full on.
In choosing things the same?
Yeah, like I don't know if I can do it out of the scope if I have to, but I found like with routine and doing things, I get used to doing those things and it's a norm for me. It's not.
Okay.
Not something where I'm too out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, and look, there can be lots of reasons for that. We're all creatures of habit, and we all learn things that work for us along the way, and whether it's the sensory processing issue or whether it's something that you've just learnt is good for you. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. Interesting, but not so interesting there, Pete.
I thought it was interesting, yeah.
No, that's what she was saying is interesting, but I'm not that interesting.
Yes, you're interesting. Yes, you are.
And so I would love to say thank you, Marg, for everything this morning, for having a chat to us and
you're welcome.
Give me an idea of my sensory profile.
And putting up with you.
Oh, yeah. It's a bit of a stretch, Pete.
It is, yes.
Yeah.
And so we'll probably get you back again soon, or not soon, but
sure. Yeah.
Maybe another 6 months or something, and just see how things are going. If there's anything new in that space.
Okay.
They might have a new sensory profile in that time. We never know.
Maybe we could do mine next time.
Maybe we could. Maybe we could even get Tony.
Maybe.
Oh, that could be interesting.
It would be.